How important is it to trust those around you in a high stakes environment? It's pretty important. If you don't trust each other when you got your back turned, it's hard to focus and get things done. It's hard to get results. We're going to talk about that here shortly after the break.
The Growing Leaders Podcast, powered by Results on Purpose. If you're a small or mid-sized business owner or a part of a leadership team, this podcast is built for you. We share ideas and stories to help you grow into the leader your business needs.
Welcome back. Livestock, horses, cattle, they're fun. And frankly, building trust with them is about spending time with them so that they can learn how you're going to behave, what your tensions are, no sudden movements basically, or you're going to get run over, stepped on, maybe bit. People, however, are a little bit more complicated, and I want to start with something that might sound backwards, actually. So most people think that trust is the thing you build first, and then everything else follows. Get people to trust each other, and the rest takes care of itself. I actually think it's kind of the other way around. Trust isn't the starting point, it's the byproduct of something else. And if you don't understand what it's a byproduct of, you'll spend your years trying to build trust directly and wonder why it never quite sticks here in business. Here's what I mean. Trust gets built when people are willing to be vulnerable with each other. And people are only willing to do that when they believe they're actually on the same team, working towards something that matters to all of them. That's the piece that's easy to skip. You can't manufacture vulnerability. You can't order someone to speak up in a meeting and trust that their honesty will be received well. What you can do is give them a reason to believe that speaking up serves something bigger than their own position. That reason is the mission, and the mindset is what tells them how the team has agreed to treat each other while they're chasing it. So when I say shared mission and mindset create the motivation to build trust, this is what I'm getting at. If there's no shared win, if nobody's actually rowing toward the same thing, then trust has no reason to exist. Think about what happens on a team without a real mission. Everyone's still measured, everyone still has a number to hit, but there's no collective outcome that ties those numbers together. In that environment, the smart move, the rational move, is to protect yourself. Pad your own stats. Make your department look good, even if it comes at the expense of the department next to you. Nobody's a bad person for doing this necessarily. They're just responding correctly to an environment that never gave them a reason to do anything else. That is exactly why I see people come out of big corporate cultures and struggle so much when they land in an ROP culture, and it doesn't always go the same direction. I remember a leader who joined one of my client leadership teams years ago, coming out of a giant corporation. She'd heard how this team operated, the clarity, the caring, the open conversation, the accountability, all of it held together at once, and she didn't quite believe it. Not because she was skeptical of the people, but because she never actually had seen something like that work anywhere else. Then she'd watched it play out in real meetings, week after week, and she realized it was true. Honestly, she got emotional about it. That reaction tells you something important, and it's not really about her. It's about how many businesses out there never operate this way and how rare it is for someone to walk into a room and realize the version they'd only hoped existed actually does. I see that reaction more often than you'd think. But actually, I've also watched the other version happen more than once. A leader comes in, says all the right things in the interview, plays along fine through onboarding, and somewhere underneath it all, they never actually believe this leadership team is any different than the last one they sat on. They're just waiting for it to reveal itself. It's the same game with different words. And here's how you find out. Something goes wrong because something always goes wrong. It's business, right? And in that moment, you see whether someone believed the mission and mindset were real or whether they were just managing appearances the whole time. The ones who never bought in cover for themselves first, and maybe their team second, instead of stepping into the honesty the moment actually calls for. That instinct doesn't stay contained. It erodes trust everywhere, every time it shows up. And left alone, it can turn genuinely ugly. The difference between these two people wasn't talent, and it wasn't how well either of them interviewed. It was whether they came to actually believe the mission and mindset were real, or whether they were just waiting to see how long the act would last. Now, here's where I want to get practical, because none of this works if leaders don't hold two things at the same time. You have to be empathetic, and you have to maintain clarity and accountability. And a lot of leaders think those are opposites. They think being kind means soft on standards, and being clear means being cold. I don't buy that. The most empathetic thing you can do for someone is to tell them exactly where they stand. Ambiguity is not kind. Ambiguity is just conflict avoidance wearing a nicer outfit. A leader who really cares about someone's growth will have the harder conversation sooner, not later, and will have it in a way that comes from genuine concern for that person's success rather than frustration at their failure. That's the difference. Clarity delivered with empathy doesn't feel like an attack. It feels like someone's actually paying attention to you. So if you're listening to this and you're trying to figure out why trust feels thin on your team, I'd stop looking at trust exercises and start looking upstream. Is there an actual mission your people believe in? Not one that's laminated on the wall, but one everybody knows. And is your mindset, the way you've agreed to treat each other, actually known and enforced when it's tested? Because if those two things are solid, trust isn't something you'll need to go build. It'll already be showing up in the room. Thank you for joining the Results on Purpose podcast. If you like the stuff you're hearing and you think a coach might be of some benefit to your business, visit results.com and check us out. You can talk to a coach and we'll find out if there might be a fit. Furthermore, if you're the kind of person that likes to talk about this stuff, you see yourself perhaps coaching leadership teams and are looking for a platform and support and people to help you do that, you can also reach out to us by visiting resultsonpurpose.com and go to the Become a Coach page.